Hi everybody. This is video 2 with the wonderful, infamous Hannah Ross. Infamous. Mother of 3, registered pelvic floor physiotherapist here in Toronto. And today we are going to talk about pelvic floor dysfunction and exercise. Right? In our day and age, women, after they have a baby, we want to get back into the gym. We want to go hard. We want to sign up for boot camp. We get that green light from our doctor and we want to go back and lose all signs of the fact that we've ever had a baby. Well, guess what? If you were pregnant for 9 months, everybody knew that you had a baby. So you're kind of supposed to still look like you've had a baby after 6 weeks.
There's the old adage, like 9 months up, 9 months down.
Yeah.
I would say 9 months up, 18 months down. That's right. Because you still have lots of hormones running through your system.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm like, just take a little break for a while.
Yes, take a little break. So my first question for you, Hannah, is when we say pelvic floor dysfunction, when you say dysfunction, everybody thinks, oh my God, I'm dysfunctional. Like, what does that mean? I've got parts of my body falling off. Okay. What is pelvic floor dysfunction?
So we're going to talk about it in terms of postpartum right now, but this can happen at any point during your life. Postpartum, I see ladies who are leaking urine, even if it's just coughing, sneezing, only with a full bladder, and I lift 50 pounds. That's still pelvic floor dysfunction, okay? Pelvic organ prolapse, when you sort of start to feel something hanging out, you're not sure what you're feeling, you put your hands on your crotch and you feel something that's not there, that's pelvic organ prolapse.
Okay, but what if I don't feel something in between my legs? Could I still have a prolapse?
Definitely, definitely.
So it could be asymptomatic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, which is why every woman should get checked out by a pelvic floor physio after having a baby.
Absolutely. I agree. 100%.
You know, pelvic floor dysfunction could be as simple as low back pain that's not going away. And it's because your pelvic floor muscles, hip pain that isn't going away. Diastasis recti is a pelvic floor dysfunction. Often comes along with pelvic floor dysfunction.
Okay. All right. So you said back pain. What is my pelvic floor? So I'm thinking of my vagina, my rectum. What's that got to do with my back?
So your pelvic floor muscles are part of your inner stability system. Okay. And if your core is not functioning properly, especially during pregnancy where you're standing, like everything sort of shifts backwards. You're spending months and months and months with a lot of your back, essentially your bones, right? Your spine, your spinal bones are taking up the brunt of that. Okay. You're gonna end up with back pain.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And lots of people who have back pain a lot later on in their life, if their inner stability system isn't functioning properly, it will result in back pain.
Interesting. So you told us a few ideas of what pelvic floor dysfunction is. So leaking urine is a dysfunction of your pelvic floor. Yep. So that's really important to know, because as far as women are concerned, a lot of them think, well, it's normal, right? Because my mom leaks, my sister leaks, all my friends leak. Ha ha ha. We kind of joke about it.
We had a baby.
We had a baby, so we leak. Yeah. But we know that as common as it is not normal. No. So now I'm going to talk about runners. Because in my experience, for many years of being a trainer, and every once in a while a runner comes by and they say, well, you know, I do my Kegels, so I should be fine, but I do wear a pad when I run, just in case for the little dribbles. And so would you say somebody who leaks when they run, is it okay for them to continue to run as long as they're doing their Kegels?
I would say if somebody came to me who's a runner and they're leaking, running is then their goal. If you're leaking urine while you're doing any activity, your system isn't functioning during that activity. So if you're a runner and you're running, stop running. We will get you back to running if that's your goal. Okay. But you need to see a pelvic floor physio.
Yes, to see what the problem is.
Yeah, because Kegels are not always the answer, right? There's an entire system. Sometimes your muscles are too weak, and Kegels would help with that. They wouldn't help alone. You have to address the entire inner stability system. You have to address your breathing. You have to address your alignment. You have to address, make sure that your pelvic floor muscles are actually strong enough to function when you're standing, strong enough to function when you're walking, strong enough to function when you're running. Yeah. And then there's the other end of the spectrum where if those muscles are too tight, if you have a muscle in your body and you have to stretch it to get rid of the pain, continuing to work that muscle, continuing to Kegel is going to have the opposite effect.
Okay.
So
it's almost like if I had a tight muscle, a tight bicep right here.
Just want to show your pipes.
You wouldn't, yeah, I wanted to show you my pipes. I'm not going to give myself more bicep curls. It doesn't make sense, right? I have to do the opposite because
stretch it.
Yeah, like what we said in our previous video, our pelvic floor muscles, like every other muscle in our body, so we want to work full range of motion.
Yeah.
So be able to have full optimal strength, but also optimal length, so they can do what they're supposed to do. Okay.
And I also want to mention that if you're lying on your back and you're breathing and you're Kegeling, that doesn't translate to high impact running and what your pelvic floor has to do when you're running versus when you're lying on your back.
Yes.
There's no impact, right?
Of course.
You have to train. There's a, you know, when you're training, I'm going to speak for the trainer here. There's a principle called specificity. You have to train for the task that you're about to do.
Yes.
Okay, so you can't assume that because you can do it in lying, you're able to do it when you're running. You have to train your pelvic floor for running.
So having said that, do you assess people standing up?
Yes, I do.
It's kind of cool, right?
Again, everything depends on what that person's goal is. You know, if it's a lady who's sitting all day and never wants to run, not necessarily.
Yeah, but if it's a runner, you would assess standing, which only makes sense because we're thinking about gravity too, right?
And every person's different, and their goals are different, and you're going to achieve them in a different way. There's no cookie cutter approach.
Good. No cookie cutter approach. Okay, so having said that, talking just generally about pelvic floor dysfunction, then what exercises would you consider safe? Because I'm finding, being in the fitness industry, every year the industry is getting harder, faster. We've got high intensity interval training. We have CrossFit. We have kettlebells. And a lot of times this stuff kind of makes me crazy, I have to admit, because, you know, as I get older, at the young age of 45, my exercise has really changed to I'm all about exercise should be functional, which is, it should have been like that from the very beginning.
Totally.
Just to make my daily activities better. And so when I bend over, I don't throw out my back, and my knees don't hurt when I do stairs.
Right.
But lifting 200 pounds over my head, to me, is not a functional exercise, right? So then I shy away when I see things like CrossFit, or I see people throwing kettlebells and swaying their back and throwing their hips out of alignment. So give me your take on those sort of exercises for a postpartum woman.
So we'll start with use your head.
Okay.
Okay. If you just had a baby and you are still in that very early stages, your body's going through a lot of changes. You need to give yourself the time to recover. That's number one. If you're not postpartum and you're going from, you know, you have pelvic floor issues, let's say, use your symptoms to tell you what you should and shouldn't be doing. If you experience symptoms when you're doing something that's higher intensity, just don't do it. Or tell your pelvic floor physio, this is what I want to do. Train me to get to there.
Okay.
You know, form is so important. You have to be breathing properly the whole time. I've had a couple of runners, speaking of runners, who were leaking when they were running. And I watched them run, and they were holding their breath the whole time. And once we actually just retrained their breathing, their leaking stopped, because the diaphragm, which is your breathing muscle, works together with the pelvic floor. And if your diaphragm is not working, your pelvic floor is not going to be working optimally. So you need to be making sure that your form is proper, that you're not lifting too much weight. If you have to hold your breath to lift a weight, that's your body telling you it's too much.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, just listen to your body. Again, there's no cookie cutter approach, but if it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right.
Yes.
And like you said, if there's no real functional purpose, if you're not hauling, you know, huge sacks of rice onto a truck every day, and that's your job, I don't really think you should be throwing 100-pound weights across the gym.
Exactly. I agree. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. And it's hard because, you know, I used to teach fitness classes to postpartum women years ago. And I always said there was nothing more competitive than getting a group of new moms together, because they're looking at each other. I can see them, and oh, look the way she looks, and what's her baby doing? And we really should be nurturing and supporting each other. And because this is a very vulnerable time in your life. And so just listening to your body. And I think it's really important what Hannah said is, you know, if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Try not to push yourself just because the woman beside you is doing it, you know, when you're getting into those fitness classes, because fitness classes are great. It's a great way to get out there and socialize with your baby. But going home after and having to change your pad or feeling weak and getting injury is not worth it. You can eventually get there. You just want to get there safely.
And I think, you know, one of the things that we have to remember also is, if it doesn't feel right, you're putting yourself at risk of actually injuring yourself. Okay, so not even the current state of your body, but actually harming yourself. And I say to my clients, you know, it's a difference between working out tomorrow and working out 10 years from now.
Yes.
And that's the choice you're making.
Yes. Yeah. And do you want to be able to decide when you stop instead of an injury forcing yourself to stop? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Hannah.
Thank you.
This was wonderful. And so we hope that you guys got a lot of good tips when it comes to exercising with pelvic floor dysfunction. If you have it, and if you don't have it, see a pelvic floor physiotherapist anyways. We're going to say that at the end of every video, just to try to hammer it into your head, because we want to be preventive, right?
Yep. And if you have questions, post them onto the Facebook page and we're happy to answer them.
Please. Okay. Bye. See you next time.
Thanks.